The driver opens my door, and Connecticut winter air slaps my face as I stand before my family's estate. Through leaded glass windows, crystal chandeliers cast golden light on the Thanksgiving gathering inside. Laughter erupts, Brandon's booming guffaw rising above the rest. My fingers tighten around the leather portfolio containing documents worth more than this $12 million mansion. My hand pauses on the brass doorknob. 10 years. 10 years since I walked out of this house, dismissed as the quiet one, the daughter who didn't matter in the grand Clark family narrative. I straighten my charcoal suit jacket, Savile Row, not that anyone inside would recognize the craftsmanship. The single platinum bracelet at my wrist catches the porch light. No flashy diamonds or family crest. Nothing to announce my worth to those who never bothered to see it. I'm not here to reconnect. I'm here to reclaim what was stolen from me, not just money or position, but recognition of my value. Through the window, I spot my father holding court in his typical fashion, gesturing with a crystal tumbler while Brandon nods eagerly beside him. Mother stands nearby, smile fixed like porcelain, fingers white around her wine stem. Savannah poses for selfies in a red dress that probably cost what most people make in a month. The tableau of wealth on display makes my quiet luxury feel like a secret weapon. The knob turns under my hand. Christmas dinner, 10 years ago. The memory rises unbidden. Father's fist slamming on mahogany when I dared question Brandon's decision to expand manufacturing without securing supply chains first. If you're not contributing, you don't get a voice in this family. Father's words, delivered with surgical precision, while Brandon smirked over his bourbon. That night, freezing rain pelted my car windows as I packed everything I owned and drove toward an uncertain future. No goodbyes. No one tried to stop me. The foyer smells exactly the same: beeswax, polish, and old money. Conversations pause as I step inside, then resume at slightly higher pitches. Mother's eyes widen, father's narrow. Brandon detaches himself from a conversation with one of the board members and saunters toward me. Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence. His eyes flick to my wrist. Nice watch. Department store having a sale? The Patek Philippe on my wrist cost more than his car. I don't correct him. Hello, Brandon. My voice emerges steadier than I feel. Happy Thanksgiving. He frowns slightly at my lack of defensiveness, at the quiet confidence that wasn't there when I left. Martha, our family cook for 30 years, appears with a silver tray of drinks. Her eyes crinkle with genuine warmth when she sees me. Miss Bryony, welcome home. She offers me a crystal tumbler. Your favorite, Macallan 25. Neat. My fingers tremble slightly as I accept the glass, but steady as I take a sip. The whiskey burns pleasantly, warming me from inside. Martha remembers. Of course she does. Father's voice booms from across the room. Brandon, we need to discuss the Thompson account before dinner. He beckons my brother, completely ignoring my presence. Mother hovers nearby, uncertain whether to approach me. Savannah doesn't even look up from her phone. Just like that, I'm excluded from the pre-dinner business conversation, dismissed before I've spoken a single word. I watch them huddle near Father's study door, Brandon gesturing enthusiastically while Father nods. They have no idea who they're dealing with. No clue that the portfolio I'm clutching contains documents that will change everything. I take another sip of whiskey and allow myself a moment of satisfaction. Their perception of me as powerless might be insulting, but it's also my greatest advantage. They think I'm still the quiet daughter who ran away when things got hard. They're about to learn how wrong they've been. I linger in the hallway outside Father's study, my back pressed against the mahogany paneling. Through the partially open door, my father's voice carries with the distinctive timbre of calculated restraint. We've kept her out of grandfather's trust for a decade, Brandon. One dinner doesn't change anything. My body goes completely still. My breathing shallows. The crystal tumbler in my hand might as well be welded to my palm. Brandon's laugh follows. She has no idea the amendments we made, legally airtight. The old man thought she'd run the company someday. Father's voice drips with dismissal. Imagined she had some special insight. Thank God we fixed that particular delusion. I remain frozen, as rage builds beneath my composed exterior. Not a single muscle betrays me. They haven't just pushed me aside. They've been systematically erasing me from the family legacy. The legacy my grandfather built. The one he specifically wanted me to protect. I need to check something in your desk before dinner, I hear Brandon say. I slip into the shadows of an alcove as Brandon exits, checking his Rolex, a gaudy, diamond-encrusted monstrosity that screams insecurity. When his footsteps fade, I enter the study. Father's desk stands imposing beneath the portrait of my grandfather. I know exactly where to look. Third drawer on the right, where important documents were always kept. The folder is labeled Clark Family Trust Amended. My hands don't tremble as I photograph each page with my phone, document after document revealing the manipulation. My name, crossed out. Provisions, rewritten. My grandfather's intentions, perverted. Dinner in 5 minutes, Martha calls from the hallway. I replace everything exactly as I found it, leaving no trace of my discovery. The dining room gleams with ostentatious wealth. Crystal chandeliers, silver candelabras, fine china that costs more than most people's monthly rent. Father sits at the head of the table, Brandon at his right hand. Savannah, wearing what appears to be an entire season's worth of designer clothes at once, live streams herself adjusting the centerpiece. Perfect lighting for my followers. She murmurs to no one in particular, her face bathed in the artificial glow of her phone. Mother sips her 4th glass of wine, her eyes slightly unfocused. I see now what I missed before her drinking isn't casual. It's survival. Father stands, commanding attention, without asking for it. Before we carve the turkey, I'd like to make my annual State of the Company address. Brandon beams, anticipating praise. Savannah barely looks up from her phone. Creston Systems has had a challenging year, Father begins, but I'm pleased to announce we've finalized negotiations with a buyer. My fork pauses halfway to my plate. This is news. The company will be sold by year's end to an as-yet undisclosed entity. Father's eyes gleam with satisfaction. Brandon will maintain his executive position, with a substantial increase in compensation. Brandon interjects, not to mention the company yacht I've already put a deposit on. And, Savannah chimes in, my new influencer deals leveraging the Creston connections are already signed. I observe the tableau before me with a photographer's eye for detail. The slight flush on Father's neck, betraying excitement. Mother's knuckles, white around her stemware. The subtle shift of the family accountant's shoulders, angled away from Brandon. Everything tells a story if you know how to read it. Most importantly, Father continues, looking directly at me for the first time all evening, we'll finally be rid of dead weight, streamlined operations, no more legacy entanglements. The message couldn't be clearer if he'd written it in blood. I'm the dead weight. The family legacy, my grandfather's vision of ethical manufacturing and sustainable growth, is being dismantled for quick profit. Brandon raises his glass. To my new position as Chief Strategy Officer at the merged company. To innovation, Father says, which from his lips sounds like desecration. Savannah leans toward me, her voice sweet poison. At least now you won't have to pretend you were ever going to inherit anything. That must be a relief. Her words are meant to cut, to watch me bleed. But I've spent 10 years building armor they can't see. To generous deals, Father concludes, his glass catching the light. I take a perfectly timed sip of water, hiding the smile that threatens to break through. They think this dinner is their victory lap. They have no idea they're celebrating their own downfall. As the crystal glasses clink around me, I wonder if revealing my hand immediately would be more satisfying, or if waiting until after their self-congratulation would deliver the justice 10 years in the making. Would you unveil the truth when you first had the chance, or wait for the perfect moment when it would land with the greatest impact? The weight of the phone in my pocket with its evidence of their betrayal feels like power. For the first time in this house, power rests in my hands, not theirs, and they don't even know it yet. After the main dish, my father rises from his chair, crystal tumbler glinting in the chandelier light. The table falls silent as he lifts his glass. To family loyalty, he announces, his gaze sweeping over everyone but me, the foundation of our success. Glasses clink around the table. I notice how dinner guests shift in their chairs, casting sideways glances my way. Their pity is palpable. Mother's hand trembles as she raises her wine, liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. Her 4th glass tonight. Speaking of success, Brandon interjects, pulling his phone from his jacket pocket. Just got the final photos of the yacht. He taps the screen, then passes it to the board member on his right. 52 feet. Custom teak throughout. Teak throughout. 52 feet. The phone moves around the table, greeted with appropriate murmurs of appreciation. When it reaches the person beside me, Brandon stretches across. Skip Bryony. She wouldn't understand the value. Savannah, never one to miss performing for an audience, stands and smooths her red dress. Family photo for the followers? she chirps, holding her phone at the practiced angle that makes her jawline appear sharper. She positions herself to capture everyone except me. Clark family traditions. #blessed. The flash blinds momentarily. I take another sip of water, allowing the cool liquid to wash away the bitter taste of exclusion. My mind drifts to those first months in Austin. The barren office space I couldn't afford to furnish. Sleeping on a camping mat behind my desk, showering at a nearby gym, living on instant ramen and determination. After the family lawyers threatened legal action if I used the Clark name in business, I created B.E. Quinn, anonymous, genderless, free from family baggage. Most painful was selling grandfather's gold pocket watch. His voice echoed as I handed it over. Time is the only truly limited resource, Bryony. Spend it creating value. That watch funded my first server farm. The irony wasn't lost on me sacrificing a timepiece to buy time for my company to grow. The doubts circled like vultures those first months. What if father was right? What if I truly had nothing of value to contribute? 18-hour days became my norm. When competitors slept, I worked. When they vacationed, I expanded. All while quietly purchasing shares in Creston through shell companies, watching my family's mismanagement from afar. Martha appears at my elbow, setting down the dessert tray. As she leans to place a slice of pumpkin pie before me, her hand briefly squeezes my shoulder. Your grandfather would be proud, she whispers, her voice barely audible over the dinner conversation. He always said you were the only one who truly understood value. Her words straighten my spine. The validation I never received from my family comes from the woman who watched me grow up, who saw what they refused to see. Father stands again, tapping his knife against his glass. The candles cast dramatic shadows across his face as conversation dies down. I have an announcement, he declares, satisfaction evident in his expression. As some of you know, we've been in negotiations with buyers for several months. He pauses for effect. Creston Systems has been sold, and none of you are getting a dime. Savannah drops her phone mid-selfie. What? You promised me the PR division? Brandon's face flushes crimson. This isn't legal. I'll contest it. Father waves off their protests. The deal is done. Evertech Holdings, $57 million. A generous offer considering recent performance issues. He looks pointedly at Brandon. I set down my water glass carefully. Who's the buyer? All eyes turn to me the first time I've spoken since dinner began. Father frowns, clearly annoyed at my interruption. Evertech Holdings, he repeats slowly, as if I might not comprehend. A tech conglomerate based in... I stand, napkin falling to the floor. That's me. The room freezes. Brandon's mouth hangs open. Savannah stops mid-text. Father's eyebrows draw together in confusion. What nonsense is this? He demands. Martha enters with the coffee service, moving with quiet efficiency around the stunned dinner guests. She places the finest Limoges cup before me, first a small act of allegiance that doesn't go unnoticed. The contrast is stark. Martha's quiet respect versus my family's open dismissal. Her small gesture gives me strength for what comes next. Outside in the circular drive, James waits in the car, final papers ready. My attorney since day one in Austin, when he took equity instead of payment I couldn't provide. Another person who saw my worth when my family couldn't sub. I reach for the leather portfolio I brought with me, pulling out a thick document bearing multiple signatures from the Creston board. Perhaps I should introduce myself properly. I say, my voice steady. I'm B. Quinn, CEO of NovaBridge Systems. I slide the merger agreement across the polished mahogany toward my father. The board voted unanimously last week, 8-0. Father's face drains of color as his eyes lock onto my company's logo, a stylized bridge spanning a rising Sunday. The same image grandfather had sketched decades ago for his original vision of Creston, before father transformed it into something unrecognizable. That's not possible, he whispers, but there's no conviction in his voice. For the first time in my life, I watch certainty drain from him, like water through open fingers. Father sets his hands down with trembling fingers. All eyes lock on me as I stand, the portfolio open on the table, revealing the truth that's been 10 years in the making. I built NovaBridge from nothing. I say, my voice steady as I maintain eye contact with each family member in turn. While Brandon was buying yachts with company funds, I was sleeping on my office floor in Austin. I slide the first document across the polished mahogany. Mother reaches for her reading glasses, her expression shifting from shock to something I haven't seen in years, perhaps pride. 240 million in valuation. Built client by client, contract by contract. I place a finger on the quarterly report. While father was dismissing me as inconsequential, I was securing capital investments from the very suppliers Creston had alienated. Brandon lurches forward. This is corporate espionage. You stole our clients. Number. The word falls between us like a gauntlet. I extract another document and slide it toward him. These are legally executed contracts with former clients who left Creston after your mismanagement. Would you like me to detail which ones abandoned ship after you failed to deliver on 3 consecutive promises? Father's face reddens. I'll invalidate this sale. The board would never. The board voted unanimously. I produced the meeting minutes, complete with signatures. After Brandon's embezzlement was discovered, $280,000 to be exact, they were eager for new leadership. After Brandon's times embezzlement, his mouth opens, then closes. In the silence, I hear Savannah's phone drop to the table. That's a lie, father says, but the words lack conviction. I remove a USB drive from my portfolio. The forensic accounting report is quite thorough. Would you like me to play the recording of the emergency board meeting where your CFO detailed the irregularities? Father looks around the table, suddenly aware of the dinner guests witnessing his unraveling. The corporate facade he's maintained for decades cracks before my eyes. The doorbell chimes. Perfect timing. That would be James Harrington, my attorney. I stand as Martha appears at the dining room entrance. Mr. Harrington is here, Miss Brioni. Shall I show him in? Martha's eyes gleam with satisfaction. Please do. Martha returns moments later with James, who carries a slim leather briefcase. Without being asked, Martha brings father's reading glasses from his study. James nods to me before addressing the table. Good evening. I have the transition documents ready for signatures. Brandon's face pales as he finally grasps the full legal implications of his actions. You can't possibly think I'll sign anything. Your signature isn't required, James says, placing documents before father. The board's approval supersedes management in cases of malfeasance. Malfeasance? Brandon sputters. That's slander. I lean forward. It's only slander if it isn't true. Would you like to explain the wire transfers to your account in the Caymans, or shall I? Brandon's bluster deflates. He glances at father, looking for rescue that doesn't come. Savannah's influencer persona drops away as she calculates her sudden financial vulnerability. What about my contract as brand ambassador? Terminated as of yesterday, I reply, along with the expense account that funded your Aspen trip last month. Father grasps at his remaining authority. This is my company. I built it from. Grandfather built it, I correct him quietly. You were its caretaker, and you failed. The dinner guests shift uncomfortably as they witness the collapse of the family dynasty. Across the table, I notice Mother's hand steadying for the first time tonight. She catches my eye and gives a nearly imperceptible nod. When Savannah begged to be the face of my rebranded company, I hesitated. Would including her in some capacity honor my grandfather's belief in family, or would it perpetuate the toxic patterns I'd worked so hard to escape? James slides the final document toward father. This acknowledges transfer of operational control, effective immediately. Father stares at the paper as if it might bite him. You think you can run Creston better than I can? I know I can. Starting with reversing the outsourcing decision that cost us the Westlake contract. The pen wavers in his hand. Behind him, I notice Mother watching with an expression I can't quite read. She catches my eye and mouths something that looks like, after dinner. Brandon shoves back from the table. This is ridiculous. I'm calling our lawyers. Savannah stands too, already punching numbers into her phone. My agent needs to hear about this. Only father remains seated, diminished in his tailored suit, the magnitude of his failure settling on his shoulders like an invisible weight. He looks up at me with unfamiliar uncertainty. What happens now? He asks, his voice barely above a whisper. Before I can answer, Mother speaks, her voice clearer than I've heard all evening. Bryony, might I have a word with you privately? After dinner? The request hangs in the air, unexpected, intriguing. What does she know that I don't? I nod. Of course. After 10 years of silence, it seems my mother finally has something to say. Father leans forward across the polished conference table, his voice softening to a tone I haven't heard since childhood. Brioni B., he says, using my old nickname like a skeleton key to unlock doors long sealed. Let's be reasonable about this. Keep the company if you must, but surely there's room for family. His smile stretches too tight across his face. Brandon nods eagerly beside him. The same bobblehead agreement I've seen at every family gathering when father speaks. I could advise on operations, Brandon offers, his voice pitched for sincerity, while his eyes calculate his survival. Keep my current lifestyle arrangements, of course, but lend my expertise where needed. I resist the urge to ask what expertise he means exactly, the ability to sink $300,000 into a yacht, while the company's infrastructure crumbled perhaps. Savannah looks up from her phone, suddenly interested. My followers would go crazy for a corporate girl boss redemption story. I could be the face of whatever rebrand you're planning. Father clears his throat, playing his final card. Your grandfather believed in keeping business in the family. He'd be disappointed by this. Vindictiveness. The words land with precision, aimed at the little girl who once trailed after grandfather through the factory floor, memorizing part numbers and supply chains while Brandon and Savannah stayed home. I open the leather portfolio on the table. The sound of the clasp releasing echoes in the sudden silence. Grandfather gave me this the summer before he died. I slide out a yellowed document, its edges worn soft from the years I'd kept it hidden. The original trust document. The one you told the attorneys was lost after his death. Father's face drains of color as I lay it flat on the table. He knew you'd try to exclude me. That's why he gave me my copy directly. I trace my finger along the faded text. Section 4, Paragraph 3. My granddaughter Bryony, Elizabeth Clark, shall receive controlling interest in Creston Systems upon reaching the age of 30, regardless of intervening management decisions. Brandon lurches forward. That can't be legal. It's notarized, witnessed, and filed with the state. My voice remains calm. I didn't use it because I wanted to succeed on my own terms, not because I couldn't. I turn another page in my portfolio. Nova Bridge wasn't a random name. Nova means new. Bridge honors grandfather's original vision for Creston building connections between technologies, not exploiting them for quick profit. Mother watches me, her wine glass untouched for the first time tonight. Grandfather knew exactly who understood true value. I lay out my restoration plans, the innovation division that would rehire engineers Brandon had fired, the legacy product lines father had abandoned despite their steady profitability. This isn't about hurting you, I say, surprising myself with the truth in those words. It's about rebuilding what matters. Father leads us to his study, the inner sanctum, where family decisions were always made without me. The hunting prints on the walls, the leather chairs positioned for men taller than I am, the heavy curtains blocking natural light, everything designed to intimidate. James places the final acquisition papers on grandfather's mahogany desk, the same desk where father had once told me I didn't deserve a voice. You can't possibly understand this business. Father attempts one final grasp at authority as I lift the pen. You've been gone 10 years. I sign my name with steady strokes. Your manufacturing costs increased 18% while quality control decreased 22%. Your server infrastructure is running on systems 3 generations out of date. You're paying triple market rate for cloud storage because Brandon canceled the IT director position to fund his boat. The Austin distribution center operates at 30% capacity because you refused to invest in automation that would have paid for itself in 14 months. And you're hemorrhaging talent because you cut the equity program that grandfather established. The scratch of my pen on paper punctuates each point. Father's mouth opens, then closes. I reach for the nameplate on the desk, Donald Clark, CEO, and slide it into the drawer. From my portfolio, I withdraw a polished brass plate, aged but recently restored. William Clark, founder, grandfather's original, I explain, placing it at the desk's center. Brandon storms out, muttering about lawyers. Savannah follows, already scheduling damage control with her manager. Father stands alone in the room that once amplified his power, now diminished by truth and documentation. The board wants a full audit. I tell him, closing my portfolio. Brandon's financial decisions will face particular scrutiny. My words hang in the air between us, neither threat nor promise, simply fact. As father finally leaves, mother remains seated in the leather chair nearest the window. Her hands rest in her lap, steady for the first time all evening. Bryony, she says quietly, we need to talk. I look at this woman who stood silently by while her husband dismantled her father's legacy, who watched her daughter drive away in freezing rain 10 years ago without a word. What has she known all these years? What silent calculations has she made behind that porcelain smile and crystal wine glass? The grandfather clock in the corner ticks steadily forward as we face each other across decades of unspoken truths. The morning sun streams through floor-to-ceiling windows as I settle into my chair at Novacrest Technologies. My fingertips trace the engraved brass nameplate on my desk. Brianne Clark, CEO. 6 months since Thanksgiving dinner, and this still feels surreal. The muted chime of my intercom breaks the silence. Miss Clark, your 9 o'clock is ready. Thank you, Eliza. Send them in. My leadership team files in 6 department heads, whose talents had been overlooked by traditional corporate structures. A former military strategist who couldn't break into management because she lacked an Ivy League degree. A brilliant programmer who'd been relegated to maintenance work because of his unconventional appearance. These are my people, the underestimated ones. Unlike my father's oak-paneled fortress designed to intimidate, my office features glass walls and open spaces. No portraits of stern-faced ancestors, judging from gilded frames instead, candid photos capturing team celebrations and project launches. Our quarterly numbers display on the wall screen, company value up 17% since acquisition. Not through cutthroat tactics, but through innovation and ethical partnerships, proving worth doesn't require crushing others. Later that afternoon, I enter our newly redesigned boardroom for the quarterly strategy meeting. Where Father's rectangular mahogany table once created a hierarchy with him at the head, our circular design ensures every chair holds equal weight. No power position, no silent corners where voices disappear. Before we begin, I say, I'd like to hear concerns about our expansion timeline. A junior analyst raises her hand tentatively. The vendor transition schedule seems aggressive. We might need another week for proper testing. 10 years ago, at a Christmas dinner, my father slammed his fist when I raised similar concerns. I'd been silenced, dismissed. Today, I nod and lean forward. Let's explore that. What specific risks do you see? As she outlines her thoughts, gaining confidence with each point, I catch my reflection in the polished table surface. The woman looking back bears little resemblance to the girl who fled a decade ago. Same eyes, but steadier. Same voice, but certain. When the meeting concludes, the team disperses with clear direction and renewed energy. No one leaves feeling diminished. The evening brings a small gathering in my penthouse. James, who believed in me when I arrived in Austin with nothing but determination. Martha, who retired from the family estate to become my executive assistant. And Mother, now 6 months sober, her hands steady as she arranges fresh flowers in a crystal vase. To building rather than breaking. Mother raises her sparkling water, her voice stronger than I've ever heard it. The woman who once disappeared into wallpaper now mentors women entrepreneurs through our foundation, turning her decades of survival into wisdom that guides others. We clink glasses as the city lights twinkle below us. After they leave, I stand before the illuminated display case in my office. Inside rests my grandfather's battered laptop, the one he used to draft his first business plan in 1978. Beside it, I place his gold pocket watch, which I repurchased last month from the pawn shop where I'd reluctantly sold it 10 years ago. My fingers rest on the glass as I consider tomorrow's foundation meeting. We're finalizing the Clark Innovation Scholarship funding for brilliant minds without connections or pedigrees. Students like I once was, with vision but no voice. Mother has taken an active role in the foundation, channeling her regret into purpose. Brandon faces indictment for financial improprieties. Father lives alone in a smaller house, his empire gone. Savannah posts fewer selfies and more substance lately. Perhaps witnessing consequences has sparked growth. As I placed my grandfather's watch beside his laptop in the display case, I wondered what matters most in legacy. Reclaiming what was taken, or creating something entirely new that honors the past while building the future. What would you choose to focus on if you were standing in my shoes? The answer seems clearer with each passing day. Legacy isn't what you inherit, it's what you build.
I straighten the last sterling silver fork on my parents' Thanksgiving table, adjusting it to precisely the same angle as the others. The caterers move quietly behind me, professionals who understand the importance of presentation. I've spared no expense. Butterfield's is the most sought-after catering service in the city. But as I step back to survey the elegant table setting with its autumn-hued centerpiece and hand-calligraphed place cards, A familiar tightness grips my chest. No matter how perfect I make this, it won't be enough. Diana, don't you think this is all a bit excessive for a simple family dinner? My mother's voice cuts through the room as she enters, her critical gaze sweeping over the arrangements. Barbara Wells, always impeccably dressed in her cashmere sweater and pearls, has a gift for making questions sound like judgments. I maintain a carefully neutral expression, the mask I've perfected over 35 years. I wanted to do something special this year. What I don't say, I wanted just once, for you to be impressed by something I've done. Mom runs her finger along the edge of a Waterford crystal glass. Well, it certainly is. Something. The pause speaks volumes. I hope this didn't strain your budget too much, honey. We would have been perfectly happy with my usual turkey and stuffing. I bite back the truth that threatens to spill out, that this dinner, which would indeed strain most people's budgets, represents less than a day's income for me. That Authentique, my little antique shop as they dismissively call it, authenticated a Fabergé egg last month for a 7-figure commission. That the modest monthly deposits I've been making into their account for the past 3 years have quietly paid off their mortgage. Instead, I adjust a napkin and say, "It's my treat, Mom. Don't worry about it." The doorbell chimes, saving me from further questioning. My father's heavy footsteps cross the foyer, followed by an excited exclamation, "There's my girl!" Melissa has arrived fashionably late, as always. I move to the kitchen doorway and watch as my younger sister sweeps in, bringing a whirlwind of expensive perfume and dramatic gestures. At 28, Melissa still carries herself with the entitled confidence of the favored child. My parents beam at her as she shrugs off her designer coat. "Sorry I'm late," she announces, not sounding sorry at all. Traffic was a nightmare. Dad places his hands on her shoulders, his face glowing with pride. "Did you tell them about the interview?" Melissa tosses her perfectly highlighted hair. "Not yet, Dad. I literally just walked in." "My brilliant girl has an interview with Caldwell Partners next week," he announces, turning to make sure I've heard. "Senior marketing position. Very competitive." "That's wonderful," I say automatically, the words hollow but expected. Mom clasps her hands together. "We always knew you'd do great things, sweetheart." I slip away, unnoticed, to check on an important auction closing today. My laptop sits on the side table in Dad's study, screen displaying the authentication platform I've built from nothing. $8.6 million in company assets. A pending contract worth $290,000. Quarterly revenue of $3.5 million. Numbers that would shock them into silence if they knew. I refresh the page, confirming our winning bid on a rare Art Deco diamond bracelet, then close the auction window. As I start to shut the laptop, my phone buzzes with a message from my assistant. I step into the hallway to respond, giving detailed instructions for the piece's secure transport. When I return, the laptop is still open, but something feels off. I scan the room, noticing nothing obviously disturbed, yet the prickle at the back of my neck persists. "Dinner's ready," Mom calls from the dining room. I close the laptop and rejoin my family, finding Melissa already seated in what has always been my spot at the table. She's scrolling through her phone, a strange expression on her face, something calculating in her eyes that makes my stomach tighten. "Everything okay?" I ask, as I take the seat across from her. "Just fine," she says, putting her phone down with deliberate care. Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. Dad raises his glass once we're all seated. "To family," he toasts, "and to my beautiful daughters, especially Melissa, on the cusp of her big break." I lift my glass automatically, but before I can take a sip, Melissa clears her throat. "Actually," she says, her voice cutting through the moment, "I think Diana might be the one with something to celebrate." She slides her phone across the table, screen displaying a photo of my laptop. My financial records. My company assets. "So when were you going to tell us about your millions?" The silence that follows is absolute. A fork clatters against fine china as Mom's hand goes limp. Dad's face darkens to a dangerous red as he stares at the screen, then at me. "This can't be true," Mom whispers, her voice tight with accusation. "How long have you been hiding this from us?" I sit frozen, watching as the carefully constructed wall between my real life and my family life crumbles completely. "All this time," Dad says, his voice rising, "we've worked hard our whole lives, and you sat on millions without helping us?" The unfairness of his words stings like a physical blow. I think of myself at 18, scholarship letter in hand, my parents dismissive because it wasn't the full ride Melissa would later receive. The 3 jobs I worked while putting myself through college, the graduation they missed because Melissa had a dance recital. The years of building my company while they patronizingly asked when I'd find a real career. Diana owes us an explanation, Melissa says, her voice trembling with perfectly practiced indignation. And honestly, some help. I have $85,000 in student loans from my MBA. The same MBA our parents encouraged her to pursue while telling me my art history degree was impractical. Something shifts inside me, a lifetime of accommodating, explaining, diminishing myself to keep the peace suddenly crystallizes into something hard and sharp and clear. I've been sending you $2,500 every month for the past 3 years, I say quietly, looking directly at my parents. Their stunned expressions would be comical if they weren't so painful. And I don't owe anyone in this family anything. The scrape of my chair against hardwood floor sounds unnaturally loud as I stand. With deliberate calm, I gather my belongings purse, phone, car keys feeling strangely light as I walk toward the door, leaving the untouched meal behind. I close the door with quiet finality, the sound of my family erupting into chaos fading as I step into the cool November air, free at last. My phone glows in the darkness of my apartment, the harsh blue light illuminating the silence I've wrapped around myself like a shield. It's been 48 hours since I walked out of my parents' house, leaving behind a Thanksgiving dinner that cost more than their monthly mortgage payment, a payment I've been quietly making for years. I tap the screen. 45 missed calls. 123 unread text messages, all from the same 3 people. How could you let your parents struggle all these years? We're family. Family shares, don't be so selfish. I need help with my loans, Diana. You owe me this. I set the phone face down on my coffee table, the cedar surface cool beneath my fingertips. The irony doesn't escape me. For years, I've craved their attention, worked for their approval, longed for them to see me. Now that they've discovered what I'm worth in dollars, they suddenly can't stop reaching out. Funny how being ignored feels preferable now. My fingers hover over the block button. Not yet. Some small, wounded part of me still hopes for an apology, an acknowledgement, anything that suggests they value me beyond my bank account. The phone vibrates again, skittering across the polished wood. This time, it's not a text but a notification from Facebook. Reluctantly, I open it, then wish I hadn't. Melissa's post sits at the top of my feed, already gathering likes and comments like flies on honey. So disappointing when your own sister is secretly rich but lets her family struggle. Some people forget where they came from. The comments pour in beneath it. That's terrible. Family should come first. I always thought Diana seemed stuck up. Rich people are so greedy these days. My cousin Angela, who hasn't spoken to me in 5 years. She never even helped when Mom needed surgery. I never knew about any surgery. No one told me. I close the app, but the damage is already seeping through my carefully constructed walls. My company email pings with a new message, then another, and another. Hello, Diana, this is your Uncle Steve. I didn't know how else to reach you. Diana, it's Aunt Patricia. We're having some financial difficulties with Jason's college tuition. I know we haven't spoken in years, but I've always thought of you as family. The knot in my stomach tightens as my private life becomes public fodder, my success transformed into their entitlement. I've spent years building Authentique, working 16-hour days, risking everything on my expertise and judgment. Now my achievement has become a family scandal, my privacy shattered by a sister who couldn't resist the urge to punish me for her own disappointments. My phone rings. Grandma Margaret's name lights up the screen. I hesitate. Grandma has always been different, sharper, more perceptive than her daughter, my mother. But she's still family. And right now, family feels like a loaded gun pointed at my heart. On the 4th ring I answer, Diana. Her voice is clear and strong, belying her 85 years. No hello, no preamble. I heard what happened. I brace myself for the lecture, the reminder about blood being thicker than water, the guilt that my generation doesn't understand sacrifice. Don't you dare give them a penny more. The air leaves my lungs in a rush. What? You heard me. Her voice is steel wrapped in silk. Not another cent. They've been leeching off you for years, haven't they? The monthly deposits, the gifts. The checks you thought I didn't notice. Grandma, No explanations needed. She pauses, and I hear ice cubes clinking against glass. Grandma still enjoys her evening bourbon. They did the same thing to your Aunt Elizabeth 30 years ago. The name lands like a stone in still water. Aunt Elizabeth, me mother's elder sister. The family success story who disappeared from family gatherings when I was just a child. The cautionary tale of selfish ambition my mother would reference with tight lips and narrowed eyes. Elizabeth built a real estate empire from nothing, Grandma continues. The moment your grandfather and your mother found out how successful she'd become, they descended like vultures. Demanded she buy them a new house, pay for your mother's wedding, fund your grandfather's retirement. Each revelation hits like a physical blow. What happened? She gave and gave until there was nothing left. Her business collapsed under the strain. Her marriage fell apart. Last I heard, she was living in Arizona, starting over in her 60s. Grandma's voice softens. It's the Wells family pattern, Diana. Use the successful one until they break, then find another target. The silence stretches between us, filled with generations of toxic expectation. It's time someone broke the cycle, Grandma says finally. After we hang up, I sit in the gathering darkness, Grandma's words echoing in my mind. A family pattern. A cycle to break. The next morning, I'm at my attorney's office before they officially open. Marion listens without judgment as I explain the situation, her practiced eyes taking in the dark circles beneath mine, the tension in my shoulders. We'll start with documentation, she says, sliding a legal pad across her desk. Every dollar you've given them. Every text demanding more. Every social media post attempting to shame you. I nod, already feeling lighter as I begin listing dates, amounts, transfers. Then a cease and desist letter, she continues, followed by security upgrades for both home and office, and we'll need to change your emergency contacts immediately. For 3 hours, we methodically construct a fortress around my life and business. Each signature, each document represents another brick in the wall between the family I was born into and the life I've built. When I leave Marion's office, the winter sun feels brighter somehow. I take out my phone and, with 3 decisive taps, block their numbers. The silence that follows isn't empty, it's peaceful. For the first time in years, I can hear myself think. Monday mornings at Authentique always carry a sense of purpose. I step through the glass doors of our office building, the familiar weight of my leather portfolio in hand, mind already cycling through the day's appointments. The subtle scent of fresh flowers fills our reception area white orchids, my signature touch for our clients who appreciate the finer details. But something is wrong. Camille, our receptionist, meets my eyes with an uncomfortable expression I've never seen on her normally composed face. Miss Wells, she says, voice pitched slightly lower than usual. Your family is here to see you. The words hit like an unexpected appraisal error. I freeze mid-stride, then deliberately smooth my expression into what my staff knows as my auction face, the perfectly neutral look I wear when examining a potentially valuable piece. They're here. After a week of digital siege, the calls, the texts, the social media campaign, they've brought the battle to my territory. And there they sit in my reception area. Barbara with her perfectly coiffed silver blonde hair and cashmere cardigan. Richard, ramrod straight in his navy blazer, jaw clenched tight. And Melissa, designer handbag clutched in white-knuckled hands, eyes darting around my office as if tallying its worth. The whispers from the authentication team down the hall reach my ears. This is exactly what I've dreaded, my carefully separated worlds colliding in spectacular fashion. I straighten my spine and approach them. This is unexpected, I say, my voice steady and professional. I'm in the middle of a workday. Mom rises first. We wouldn't have had to come here if you'd answered our calls, she says, the accusation thinly veiled as explanation. Dad stands next. We need to talk, Diana, privately. I'm acutely aware of my team watching this unfold. The family drama I've worked so hard to keep contained is now center stage in the business I've built from nothing. Conference room 3 is available, I say after a moment, gesturing down the hallway. The glass-walled room offers the illusion of privacy while ensuring this won't escalate unseen. 20 minutes, that's all I can spare. They follow me through the office. past the climate-controlled authentication stations where my team examines priceless pieces, past the wall displaying our industry certifications and awards. I watch their eyes widen at the obvious success surrounding them. This is my domain, built by my hands, my knowledge, my persistence. The conference room door closes behind us with a soft click. The space is elegant but functional polished walnut table, ergonomic chairs, discreet technology. Through the glass walls, I can see my assistant hovering nearby, concern evident on her face. I give her a slight nod to indicate I'm fine. Before I can speak, Melissa slides a document across the table. The header reads, Wells Family Trust. We've had financial advisors help us draft this, she says, voice trembling with what might sound like emotion to someone who hasn't watched her perform since childhood dance recitals. It's very reasonable. I don't touch the document. What exactly is this? Mom leans forward, hands clasped together. Diana, honey, we're your family. We deserve to share in your success. After everything we sacrificed for you, Dad adds, his voice carrying that familiar tone of authority that once made me shrink inside myself. The words echo in my head, unlocking a flood of memories I've carefully compartmentalized. Me at 18, proudly holding my scholarship letter at the kitchen table, Mom barely glancing at it before asking if I'd help prepare dinner. The 3 jobs I juggled through college while they paid for Melissa's private university without question. My college graduation ceremony empty seats where my parents should have been because Melissa had a dance showcase the same weekend. When did you ever sacrifice for me? The question escapes before I can contain it, my voice unnervingly calm. Name one thing. The silence that follows is heavy with shock. Barbara's perfectly lined lips part slightly. Richard's face flushes. That's absurd, Mom finally manages. We gave you everything. You didn't even come to my college graduation. The words hang in the air between us. Dad shifts uncomfortably, but his expression quickly hardens. We couldn't be everywhere at once, he says dismissively. And look at you now, clearly you didn't need us there. I built this company while you told everyone I worked at some little antique shop, I continue, each word precise and measured. You've never once asked about my business. Not once in 7 years. We didn't want to pry, Mom says weakly. No, you didn't want to know, I correct her. Because as long as you didn't acknowledge my success, you didn't have to compare it to Melissa's. Melissa's carefully constructed tears begin right on cue. That's so unfair. You've always been jealous of me. I feel a strange calm settling over me, the kind that comes with absolute clarity. I've been supporting you both financially for years, I say, looking directly at my parents. $2,500 every month for 3 years. Barbara's hand flies to her throat. Those deposits, we thought they were from your father's pension adjustment. They weren't, and that support ends today. Richard's face darkens to a dangerous red. He rises from his chair, knuckles pressed against the polished conference table. We're entitled to a share of your company. The word entitled reverberates through me. It's the perfect distillation of everything wrong between us, the expectation that my success is somehow their possession, that my achievements exist to serve their needs. I reach for the intercom button with deliberate calm. Elaine, would you please ask security to come to conference room 3? You would throw your own parents out? Mom gasps, shock transforming her features. I meet her eyes directly. You stopped being parents to me long ago. The silence that follows is absolute. Even Melissa's theatrical sobs quiet as the reality of the situation sinks in. The door opens, and 2 members of our building security team enter, James and Marcus, both consummate professionals who handle our high-value transfers. They stand quietly, waiting for instruction. These people need to be escorted from the building, I say, my voice steady. They are not to be admitted again without my express permission. Dad's face contorts with rage. You ungrateful! Mr. Wells, James interrupts with respectful firmness. Please come with us. As they gather their belongings, Mom clutching her purse like a shield, Dad seething with barely contained fury, Melissa turns to deliver her parting shot. This isn't over, she hisses, eyes narrowed. I watch them being led through my office, past my employees who quickly pretend to be absorbed in their work. The glass doors close behind them, and I remain standing in the conference room, the rejected Wells Family Trust document still lying on the table. Yes, it is, I whisper to myself, the words carrying the weight of finality. When I step back into the main office area, my team studiously avoids making eye contact. Only Elaine approaches, concern evident in her expression. "Everything okay, Miss Wells?" I straighten my shoulders, feeling lighter than I have in years. "Schedule the senior team for a meeting at 2. We have the Harriman authentication to finalize." As I walk to my office, I feel the subtle shift in the atmosphere, a new respect mingled with curiosity. They've witnessed something rare. Diana Wells drawing a line that cannot be crossed. I close my office door and take a moment to breathe. In the polished surface of my desk, I catch my reflection, shoulders back, head high, eyes clear. For the first time in my life, I've chosen my own worth over their approval. And it feels like freedom. I study the weight of the fountain pen in my Handan antique Mont Blanc with a flawless 18K gold nib. It's the pen I use for authenticating the most valuable pieces in my collection. Today, it seems fitting that I use it to authenticate my freedom. "Take your time, Diana." Martin Abernathy's voice is steady, professional. At 62, he's been practicing family law for longer than I've been alive. His office smells of leather-bound books and lemon polish, a fortress of calculated calm. The legal documents spread before me represent weeks of meticulous preparation, formal cessation of financial support, documented history of all previous transfers, legal protection from harassment and defamation. Each page crisp black text against pristine white, the language precise and unambiguous. Once you sign these, it establishes clear legal boundaries. Martin explains, his finger tapping gently on the signature line. "Your family will have no grounds to demand financial support or involvement with your business assets." I nod, then press the pen to paper. My signature flows across the line with the same confidence I use when authenticating a rare Cartier bracelet. The small act carries the weight of mountains shifting. "What about the social media posts?" I ask, thinking of Melissa's increasingly desperate public campaign. Martin's expression remains neutral, but his eyes sharpen. "We've documented everything. Should they continue after receiving these papers, we have grounds for a restraining order." I sign the final document, feeling a curious lightness spread through my chest. It reminds me of the day I received my first major authentication commission, the same sense that something fundamental has shifted. "What most clients find," Martin says as he collects the papers, "is that toxic family members often respond to legal boundaries by shifting tactics." "What do you mean?" He offers a smile that holds the wisdom of hundreds of similar cases. When demands don't work, they often turn to narrative control. The story will change from "she owes us" to "we never wanted her money anyway." I almost laugh at the accuracy of his prediction. By the time I return to my apartment, it's already begun. The email from my second cousin Deborah arrives as I'm repainting my home office. I've chosen a serene sage green to replace the beige my mother once insisted was the only professional color for a workspace. The paint roller glides smoothly across the wall, each stroke erasing another memory of compromise. "Diana, I'm concerned about your parents. They're devastated that you've cut them off completely. They say they never wanted your money, just a relationship with their daughter. Your mother is telling everyone at church how they sacrificed everything for your education." My phone buzzes with a text notification from Uncle Stephen, my father's brother. "Your father says he's praying for your redemption. What's gotten into you?" I set down the roller carefully on its tray, then wash my hands before responding to either message. The calculated pause isn't about formulating a defense, it's about honoring my own process. The old Diana would have frantically explained, justified, apologized. At my laptop, I open the simple spreadsheet I've maintained for years. Row after row of financial transfers, $2,500 on the first of every month for 36 consecutive months. The down payment for their roof repair, $14,800. My father's medical bills, $9,732. Melissa's car after her accident, $32,000. All meticulously documented, organized, indisputable. I could forward this spreadsheet to every relative currently entertaining my family's revised history. I could post screenshots on social media to counter Melissa's tearful claims of abandonment. The evidence sits at my fingertips, ready to be weaponized. Instead, I close the file without sending it. I compose a single, measured response to Deborah. "I understand they're upset. I've made my decision after careful consideration of our family dynamics over many years. I wish them well, but I need this boundary. To Uncle Stephen simply, I'm doing what's best for my well-being after much reflection. My phone rings almost immediately. The screen displays Aunt Elizabeth, my father's sister who moved across the country 25 years ago after what the family always called her nervous breakdown. Diana, it's Elizabeth. Her voice sounds different than I remember, stronger, more centered. Margaret told me what's happening with Richard and Barbara. Grandma called you? The paintbrush I'm cleaning nearly slips from my hand. She did, and I need to tell you something. There's a pause then. They did the same thing to me when I received my inheritance from Grandpa Wells. I sink into my desk chair, paint-speckled fingers gripping the phone tighter. What? The demands. The public shaming. Telling everyone I was selfish and unnatural for not sharing with family. Her words come faster now. 3 decades of contained truth-finding release. I didn't have your courage. I gave them nearly half before I realized they would never stop asking. Something clicks into place, the reason this poised, intelligent woman has remained a family mystery, present only in occasional holiday cards and brief visits. Is that why you moved to Oregon? 3,000 miles of necessary distance. There's a smile in her voice now. Diana, I'm calling because I want you to know that what you're doing isn't just right for you, it's breaking a pattern that's hurt this family for generations. After we hang up, I stand in my half-painted office, breathing in the fresh scent of new beginnings. On my desk sits a legal document confirming receipt of the cease and desist letters by all 3 family members. The notification light on my phone has finally stopped blinking. The constant barrage of messages has ceased the digital equivalent of held breath. They've received the papers. They know this isn't a temporary emotional response they can wait out. I return to my painting, completing the wall with long, deliberate strokes. Tomorrow, I'll take down the family photos that have hung in uncomfortable obligation. The frames are beautiful antiques. I'll repurpose them for photography from my recent trip to Prague. For the first time in 35 years, I feel truly seen not by my parents, who never could see me clearly but by myself. In the quiet stillness of my apartment, I recognize that their power existed only in my desperate hope for their approval. The next morning, I wake with purpose. I remove each family photo from the walls, feeling the weight of obligation lift with every frame I take down. These beautiful antique frames, some Edwardian, one genuine Art Nouveau deserve better than to house memories of forced smiles and hollow celebrations. I lay them carefully on my dining table, wiping away the fine layer of dust. Next come the obligatory birthday gifts, the scarf my mother gave me, to add some color to your drab wardrobe, the business card holder from my father engraved with the wrong middle initial. Each item goes into a donation box, making space for what truly matters. By afternoon, I've rearranged the furniture, positioning my reading chair to face the eastern window where morning light streams in rather than against the wall, as my mother had insisted looked more appropriate. I unpacked the Turkish rug I purchased in Istanbul, but kept in storage because it wouldn't match the family aesthetic if they visited. As the last stroke of paint completes the transformation of my walls, I understand that freedom isn't found in dramatic gestures or public vindication. It's found in the dignity of truth, held close and honored, and in the quiet power of creating a space that finally, completely belongs to me alone. Morning light streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Authentique's expanded offices, bathing the conference room in a warm glow that catches on the polished mahogany table. I straighten my notes, feeling the weight of the vintage watch on my wrist grate, grandmother's only heirloom I've kept close. The Bergman collection authentication yielded a 17% increase in fourth-quarter revenue, I tell the board members seated around me. And our new blockchain verification system has already attracted 3 major auction houses. Thomas Whitehill, my longest-serving board member, leans forward. Remarkable growth, Diana, especially considering the personal challenges of the past 6 months. I meet his gaze steadily. My personal and professional lives operate in different spheres now, Thomas, to everyone's benefit. The unspoken acknowledgement passes between us show I've transformed since cutting ties with my family. No more late-night panic calls from Mom about their mortgage payment. No more emergency transfers to cover Melissa's latest crisis. No more diminishing myself to maintain their comfortable illusions. Have you found that success comes more easily when you're free from toxic relationships? For me, the answer is an unequivocal yes. After the board meeting concludes, I walk the expanded floor of our operations center. 27 employees now, up from 22 before the Thanksgiving disaster. The familiar ping of authentication software mingles with quiet conversations as specialists examine pieces under specialized lighting. My domain, built from nothing but determination and expertise. The expertise my parents dismissed as playing with old jewelry. Jasmine, my new deputy director, approaches with a tablet. The Margaret Wells Scholarship Committee needs final approval on the application criteria. I smile at the name Grandma's maiden name, preserved in this new legacy. I've made some adjustments. I take the tablet, making several quick notes. I want to specifically target first-generation college students who demonstrate exceptional merit but lack financial support, like I once was. And I've doubled the funding for the first 5 years. Jasmine raises an eyebrow. That's exceptionally generous. It's necessary, I reply simply, handing back the tablet. Some cycles need decisive breaking. How have you turned difficult family experiences into something positive for others? This scholarship isn't charity, it's correction. A rebalancing of opportunities that should have existed all along. The community center bustles with pre-holiday activity as I arrange holiday meal packages alongside other volunteers. 6 months ago, I'd have been preparing for another exhausting family gathering, analyzing every word choice for potential criticism, minimizing my accomplishments to avoid accusations of showing off. Diana, we need more help with the children's gift wrapping, calls Elaine, the volunteer coordinator. I move to the colorful station where donated presents await wrapping. Beside me, an elderly woman struggles with a particularly awkward Pacagea child's bicycle. Here, let me help. I offer, steadying the handlebars as she positions wrapping paper. Bless you, dear. She smiles. My daughter usually helps, but she couldn't make it today. I'm happy to fill in, I say, carefully creasing a corner. And where's your family today? The question would have stung 6 months ago. Now I simply meet her eyes. I'm spending the holidays with chosen family this year. She nods, a knowing light in her eyes. Sometimes those are the most important kind. We work in companionable silence, her gnarled fingers moving with surprising dexterity. When we finish, the bicycle is transformed into a festive masterpiece. Perfect teamwork, she declares. The warm satisfaction that spreads through me feels more genuine than any family dinner I've attended in years. Share how you've built a chosen family of supportive people in your life. How do these relationships differ from blood relationships? Mine offer acceptance without expectation, support without scoreboards. Grandma Margaret's retirement community gleams with tasteful holiday decorations as I sign the visitor log. The dining room, with its panoramic views of snow-dusted gardens, provides a serene backdrop for our monthly lunch. When I spot her silver-crowned head at our usual corner table, something tightens in my chest. She rises as I approach, arms extended for a hug that feels like coming home, the only embrace that's ever felt that way. There she is, Grandma says, her voice strong despite her 85 years. The only Wells with any sense. I laugh, settling across from her. How are you feeling? The new medication working? Don't fuss, she waves dismissively. I've outlived 2 husbands and most of my friends. I'll outlive these pills too. Our server brings Grandma's usual Earl Grey and cucumber sandwiches and my green tea. So, she says after the server leaves, leaning forward with conspiratorial energy, Barbara called last week. My stomach tightens slightly, but it's a distant reaction now, more habit than distress. And? Oh, the usual performance. They're telling everyone you've abandoned the family. Grandma's eyes, sharp as ever, study my reaction. Richard's spinning some tale about you having a nervous breakdown from work pressure. 6 months ago, these words would have sent me spiraling into defensive explanations. Now I simply raise an eyebrow. Creative. Melissa's engaged, apparently, to some investment banker who hasn't figured out there's no trust fund waiting. I sip my tea. Let them tell their stories. I'm writing my own now. Grandma's smile crinkles the corners of her eyes. Finally, someone in this family understands the value of hard work and clear boundaries. She reaches into her embroidered handbag. Which reminds me, She places a small velvet box on the table, pushing it toward me. Inside, I find a delicate gold locket engraved with intricate flowers. When I open it, there's a tiny black and white photo of a young woman with familiar, determined eyes. My mother, Grandma explains. Your great-grandmother Elizabeth, the original family rebel. She taps the locket. She left her controlling parents to become a teacher when women were expected to simply marry well. Started over with nothing but determination. You never told me this story, I say, tracing the engraving with my fingertip. Some family history is worth preserving, Grandma says. Just not the toxic parts. What parts of your family legacy do you choose to preserve? And which parts have you decided to leave behind? The question lingers as I clasp the locket around my neck, feeling its weight against my collarbone. I have something for you, too. I slide an envelope across the table. I hope you don't mind that I used your maiden name. Grandma opens the envelope, unfolding the Scholarship Foundation documents. Her hands tremble slightly as she reads. The Margaret Wells Scholarship for First-Generation College Students. Her voice catches. Diana. The first recipients will be selected next fall, I explain. I thought, maybe you'd like to help choose them. She reaches across the table, her weathered hand covering mine. I would be honored. After a moment, she straightens, composure returning. Now, about our trip to Europe this spring, I've been researching those jewelry museums you mentioned in Vienna. As we plan our journey, I realize I'm finally building the family legacy I've always wanted, one based on genuine connection rather than obligation, on mutual respect rather than manipulation. The foundation I've created isn't just financial, it's the solid ground of self-worth I've fought to establish. The family I've chosen, including the one blood relative who truly sees me as the one I deserve. I reach for a bright red bell pepper, weighing it in my palm. It's firm, unblemished, perfect for the roasted vegetable medley I'm planning for tomorrow's Thanksgiving dinner. Around me, the market bursts with color-vibrant orange pumpkins, deep purple eggplants, and forest green kale, creating a harvest palette that delights my senses. The gentle misting system sprays over the produce with a soft hiss, releasing the earthy aroma of fresh vegetables. Not catered this time. My own recipes, my own hands, preparing food for people who genuinely want to be at my table. Diana? The voice stops me cold, though my heart doesn't race like it once would have. I turn slowly, pepper still in hand, to see Melissa standing by the organic tomatoes. Her highlighted hair has grown out, dark roots prominent against the faded blonde, and her designer clothes have been replaced with a department store coat that's begun to pill at the cuffs. The strain of the past year shows in the fine lines around her eyes, her complexion dull compared to the vibrant produce surrounding us. Have you ever unexpectedly encountered family you've distanced yourself from? How did you handle it? Hello, Melissa. My voice is steady, neither warm nor cold. She shifts her weight, clutching her shopping basket like a shield. Inside, I glimpse store-brand pasta. A small turkey breast, not the whole bird our mother would insist upon, and a single bottle of $2 chuck. The evidence of downsized expectations. I didn't expect to run into you here. She glances at my cart filled with fresh produce, artisanal bread, and a bottle of reserve Cabernet. You look well. Thank you. I am well. The silence stretches between us like taffy, sticky and uncomfortable. The bustling market noise fades into the background, the beeping of checkout scanners, the squeaking of cart wheels, the murmur of other shoppers, all muted by the awkward tension of our unexpected reunion. A year ago, this encounter would have filled me with dread, with guilt, with a desperate need to smooth things over. Today, I simply wait. Mom and Dad are having a small dinner tomorrow, she finally offers, her tone carefully casual. Nothing fancy. Dad's hours got cut back at the firm, and with the economy. She trails off, the unspoken request hanging in the air between us. I place the pepper in my cart, the soft thud it makes against the metal basket punctuating my decision not to take her bait. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope things improve for them. Melissa's eyes widen slightly at my response, compassionate, but lacking the immediate offer of financial rescue she clearly hoped for. A flash of frustration crosses her face before settling into something more contemplative. Could you maintain such composure if faced with a similar situation? They ask about you sometimes, she says, her voice softer now. Mom doesn't say it, but I think she regrets how everything happened. I nod. acknowledging her words without jumping to fill the space with promises or apologies. That's good to know. A year ago, I might have interpreted this as an opening to repair what was broken, rushing back into the dysfunction with checkbook open. Now I recognize it for what it is, a tentative acknowledgement that perhaps they were wrong, wrapped in another subtle attempt to access my resources. "And you?" I ask, genuine curiosity in my voice. "How are you doing, Melissa?" Something shifts in her expression, surprise perhaps, that I would ask about her welfare without agenda. "It's been educational. I finally got a job. Not with Caldwell, but a smaller firm. The pay isn't what I expected, but it's a start. That's something to be proud of." I say and mean it. For a moment, I glimpse a version of my sister I never knew, one forced to stand on her own feet, discovering her own capabilities. Not the entitled girl who assumed the world owed her success, but a woman learning what it means to earn her way. "Well, I should get going," she says, glancing at her watch. "We're having dinner at 5 tomorrow if you wanted to." "I have plans," I say gently, "but thank you for the invitation." She nods, a mix of relief and disappointment crossing her face. "Happy Thanksgiving, Diana." "Happy Thanksgiving, Melissa." I watch her walk away, noticing how her shoulders hunch slightly forward now instead of being thrown back in perpetual confidence. The squeak of her cartwheel creates a melancholy rhythm as she disappears around the corner. The encounter leaves me neither elated nor devastated, just peaceful. The power they once held over me has dissolved completely. What does family truly mean to you? And how has that definition evolved throughout your life? Grandma Margaret raises her glass from the head of my dining table, the light catching her silver hair like a crown. Around her sit my chosen family, Elise and Jerome from the gallery, my attorney Sarah and her husband, my restoration specialist Tomas, and 2 scholarship recipients who had nowhere to go for the holiday. The room glows with amber light from vintage brass candelabras, casting a warm radiance over plates of steaming food. The rich aroma of herbs and butter fills the air, rosemary, sage, thymingling with the scent of mulled cider simmering on the stove. Soft jazz plays in the background, a gentle counterpoint to the animated conversations. "To the family we choose," Grandma declares, her eyes finding mine across arrangements of golden chrysanthemums and flickering candles. "To the family we choose," we echo, the warm chorus of voices blending in harmony, glasses clinking with a crystalline music that speaks of celebration and genuine connection. As conversations bloom around the tableart history debates, gentle teasing, genuine interest in each other's lives, I take a moment to absorb it all. The tactile pleasure of the linen napkin in my lap, the weight of my great-grandmother's silver in my hand, the embracing comfort of being surrounded by people who choose to be here, with me, exactly as I am. Laughter erupts at something Jerome said, the sound so different from the tense, measured responses at my parents' table a year ago. This laughter is full-bodied and real, rising and falling like music, unrestrained by judgment or competition. Share how you've created meaningful traditions with the people who truly support you. What makes these special? Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to write our own story. Mine is still unfolding, each page more authentic than the last. And for the first time in my life, I can't wait to see what comes next.